Your right hand will find me. If I pretend to myself that I can hide out in the darkness, you can see me because light is all you see, even in the midst of the darkness. God, it was you who knit me perfectly in my mother's womb. I thank you and praise you because I am fearfully and awesomely and wonderfully made. God, there is nobody like me. I am your unique creation. It doesn't matter what color my hair is. It doesn't matter the texture or the thickness of it. It doesn't matter how thick my thighs are. It doesn't matter the color of my skin. It doesn't matter who I love or how I make love to them. It doesn't matter if I've fallen down and made mistakes. It doesn't matter if I'm a sinner or if I'm a loser, because I'm a winner in your eyes, oh God, and I thank you. Come in and you'll find out.
Just to see the morning sun and to watch a new day come, we give thanks for this day. For the flowers and the rain, it makes me want to sing. We give thanks for this day. Lord, I'm so
just to see and to watch. We give for the flowers. It makes me want to say, we turn you around, you ought to say, oh, I'm grateful, feet to walk, I'm so, that's why, that's why, that's why, that's why, oh, so grateful, truly grateful. I sat back waiting, anticipating at some point change would begin. Then it hit me, I was what was missing My weight was dead, that's why we couldn't move ahead. But no more delays. It all ends today. It don't have to be so heavy if you pull your weight. You and I are the ones we've been waiting for. You and I thought this was somebody else's war. You and I are the ones we've been waiting for.
By a promise, just hope change is coming. Well, hope alone won't bring about that change. We are God's heartbeat, God's hands and God's feet. God in the flesh, let's bless full steam ahead.
So no more delays. It all can end today. It don't gotta be so heavy if we'll all carry our
Que están esperando. Tú y yo somos lo que nosotros estamos esperando. And I say a loud, resounding, sí se puede. Y otra vez, tú y yo somos las personas que están esperando. Sí, se puede.
We've been waiting for. What you give focus to, that's what's ruling you. Get off of your knees, crying, help me, please. You can help yourself, no matter how helpless you felt. What I'm discovering, God has been waiting on me. We shall. We shall.
They don't accrue, but you say
My child, take as many as you need. You're my joy, you're my peace, and all my cares I'll cast on thee. Never take your love away. It took a little while to understand that you don't operate with the mind of man, and I'm so glad you don't, 'cause I surely would have lost your love. And I thank you for never giving up on me.
Welcome to Middle.
ようこそミドル教会へ。
Welcome to Middle Church. We're glad you're here.
Bienvenidos a la iglesia del Middle.
Welcome to Middle.
Welcome to Middle Church.
我哋歡迎你嚟 Middle Church。
Welcome home.
Good morning, everybody. I say good morning, everybody. How are you today? Good. I'm so glad to see you. You look cute, you know? Welcome to Middle Church. If you're here for the very first time, I'm Jackie Lewis. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and sadly for you, I think I'm funny. Raise your hand if it's your first time here. Yay, welcome, honey. Thank you. Hope you come back and see us soon. If it's your first time online, we're also delighted that you're here. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate you. Listen, there's a lot of amazing things going on as we continue our Lenten journey and Women's History Month. Today we have our wonderful Mira Salani Joyner is preaching. We're so excited about that. Next Sunday, there's a beautiful training for those of us who want to be ushers. Where's Elise? Elise is going to stand up, Elise, just a little bit. Elise and Monique are going to be doing that. And if you'd like to come, I'll tell you what, I joined Middle Church before I got hired by Middle Church because of the ushers, because of the people at the door. It was Danita and some beautiful drag queen inviting me in. And I was like, this is my home. So ushers are the first line of love. Ushers are the first line of love. So we could really use you coming to that, so make sure you do. And today, right after worship, there is a congregational meeting. If you're online, you just stay right where you are. Just get your coffee and stay right where you are. If you're here, we're going to benedict, and then we're going to talk about some amazing developments that have to do about, well, development. Has to do about the rebuilding of the church, fundraising, and a potential partnership that should delight you as much as it delights us. There was one more thing for the 19th. Just look at me and give me a word. Say a word. Art gallery. Why don't you come talk about it? We never get to hear from Elise. Hi, Elise.
Hi. So also on the 19th at 3 o'clock, our young adults and our families are invited to join Mira and I. We're going to Prospect Park. The wonderful Sarah Brooke, who's a Middle member and artist, yes, has an art installation there. So 3 o'clock, we're going to go. We're going to get to tour. We're going to get food. It's going to be beautiful. And we'd love to see you there.
Thank you, Elise. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate it. Okay, there's so many more things that we can share. I want to just say that these beautiful flowers are a gift from the family and friends of Achebe Betty Powell, who passed away February 21st. And we commemorated her beautiful life yesterday. It was really sad, but also really beautiful. So these flowers are here. Let me check in. Is there food downstairs? There's munchies, right? Or no? So therefore, it's really important that I check in with my team. Okay. No food for you. Oh. Butterfly lunches. gonna be all right.
Thank you.
Okay. It's good to have a little comedy in the midst of all the crazy, right, y'all? All the crap that's going on for our trans family. I just pray special prayers for any of our non-binary and trans friends that somehow, I really want Jesus to kick the butt of all the evil people, but that's probably not the right prayer, but it's something like that. So let us take a deep breath. Think of all of the ways God has shown up for you this week, and let us worship God.
Hello, for all you young at heart, please come up for a little worship. I'm going to honor, as you come up, my grandmother for Women's History Month, and just a little bit about her. She was fierce with a machete. She was born a long time ago in a plantation, and but what I love most of all was all these little things she did to show love. like towards the end of her life, she was living with us, and she would bake all these incredible gifts and treats, and she would hide them and would wink and would have them in her hands. And as we go by, she would drop these little lollipops or something that she's cookies or something. And so I have these little treats as a reminder of her, to show that there's a little bit of love in all of us, and that meant something to me, you know? So I want all you little ones to know that I love them and you mean something to me, and just pass it on.
Thank you, Linda. All right, friends, can you join us in singing Sia Humba?
Good morning. I wait for the Lord, my soul waits. I hope in her word, my soul waits more than a watcher. Wait for the dawn, wait for the dawn. Put all your hope in the Lord. Her love and mercy are sure. She will redeem her own from all their
It's been said that prayer is original speech, and if that's true, then I would say song is original prayer. That was so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to invite you to continue to pray. We have a very special Lord's Prayer printed in your bulletin, and it will be on the screen. It is on the screen. If you're able to stand, please do stand with me. And let us continue to pray the prayer that Jesus taught his disciples. We're always saying here, pray the prayer the way you learned it, the way you know it. But I want to invite you to experiment with me today. If you feel like you can comfortably pray these words that open up an image of God, okay? Take a deep breath and pray with me. Our Mother, who is in heaven and within us, we call upon your names. Your wisdom come, your will be done in all the spaces in which you dwell. Give us each day sustenance and perseverance. Remind us of our limits as we give grace to the limits of others. Separate us from the temptation of empire and deliver us into community. For you are the dwelling place within us, the empowerment around us, and the celebration among us, now and forever. Amen. This indwelling, loving, powerful, justice-making God demands from us very little, but that we love one another and love God with all we have, and that love is the source of peace. So today I invite you to give a sign, a greeting of peace to your neighbor. Y'all know I'm a hugger, but everybody's not. So remembering all the ways we can bow to the divinity in each other with namaste, give a fist bump, give a arm hug, do all the things. Do a little dance, share a little love, okay? Peace be with you, Middle family.
Be like water, let it flow.
You're a seed that has been sown.
And even if you feel buried in the middle of the desert, waiting on the water,
or like our ancestors, waiting in the water, know that you were not buried to die, but rather to testify.
The troubled water is what made Jonah who Jonah was. And the troubled water made Joseph who Joseph was.
So imagine Joseph with no well.
Imagine Jonah with no whale.
Even if you don't study the prophets, know well that the true believer takes no L.
No L.
Ready for God to trouble these waters today? I'm ready for it. Our teaching today is from Exodus 2, verses 1 through 10. I'll read it out, but if you want to follow on your phones or devices, please do. And we're reading the NRSV, Miss Jackie. Now a man from the house of Levi went and married a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a fine baby, she hid him 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and plastered it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it, placed it among the reeds in the bank of the river. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. The daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river while her attendants walked beside the river. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her maid to bring it. When she opened it, she saw the child. He was crying, and she took pity on him. "This must be one of the Hebrews' children," she said. Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Yes." So the girl went and called the child's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed it. When the child grew up, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses because, she said, "I drew him out of the water." The word of God for the people of God. Will you pray with me? Holy Creator God, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be always pleasing in your sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. Amen. I want to start off this morning by sharing a proverb with you, one that I learned from my background, one my youth pastor told me when I was growing up in Hong Kong. It's a Chinese proverb, and the proverb is, one chopstick is easily broken, while a bundle of chopsticks are not. There's also a Filipino saying that means something similar, and it's, a broom is sturdy because its strands are tightly bound. Now, I like to make a habit of coming back to these proverbs and sayings from my roots and from my people of origin. I do it because in my own journey in life, I've been exposed to lots of different proverbs and sayings, and some of them don't serve me. One such saying that I'm sure you're all familiar with is, every man for himself. Who knows that one? Everyone, right? It's a saying I don't love because I believe it puts us in competition with one another. It's only concerned with the individual, the self. It's a saying that values individual achievement and individual survival above all else. I bring this up because I don't think this every man for himself way of living is working for us. Moving through life in this way where we are in competition with one another, it isn't working. And I'm learning in my own journey through life, I'm learning more and more that the way to get through this wilderness journey is by walking through it together. The womanist way. What's the womanist name, Mira? What does that mean? It's coming. The womanist way, let me tell you, the womanist way is not about individual survival. It is concerned about the collective. Alice Walker, who coined the term womanist, defines womanist as, in her words, a woman who loves other women, sexually and or non-sexually. She says this too, a womanist is committed to survival and wholeness of entire people, male and female, which is what we see take place in this story of Moses' birth. In fact, womanism is at work even before this chapter. We started in chapter 2 this morning. Even before this chapter, chapter 1, we see womanism taking place when Hebrew midwives worked together to conspire against Pharaoh's decree to kill all the baby boys. That's the condition in which Moses was born in. They weren't concerned about any repercussions that might come from going against the Pharaoh. They weren't worried for their own individual safety or survival. For them, their concern and their commitment was for the survival of their people, of their entire community. And then we get to chapter 2, today's reading. We see womanism at work in Moses' family, where each individual of that family member, of that family, risked their lives every moment Moses was alive. They risked their lives every time he cried under their roof, because they risked being caught. Their entire family worked together to keep his existence a secret, knowing anything could happen if Pharaoh were to find out. This is another example of womanism. Then when it comes to the day when they couldn't keep him a secret any longer, Moses' mother released Moses into the world. I'm a mother. I have 3 kids. I have no idea how she did this. But somehow, she must have trusted that the womanist way would emerge. And somehow, Moses would live. And that's when we see Pharaoh's daughter come into the scene, who's enjoying a nice, lovely bath with her attendants. And she sees this basket bopping down the river, and she asks her attendant to go and get it. And the passage tells us she hears Moses crying, and she took pity on him. Now let's pause for a second. If Pharaoh's daughter valued and every man for himself philosophy, she would have been satisfied having all her needs met. She's bathing, she's good, she's got attendance, she's well fed, probably wearing the best threads there is out there in the ancient Egyptian days. So she's not concerned with what's going on in the basket or the cries that are coming out of it. For her, as being part of the dominant group, as being a member of the upper and ruling class, she has nothing to gain from helping this baby who wasn't hers. And yet, she becomes moved by Moses' cries, by this deep wailing, the kind of weeping you do when you're desperate, the kind that you do when you're lifting your voice and crying out desperately to be saved, when you are calling out for survival. That's what babies do. Who's heard a baby screeching in the middle of the night on an airplane at a restaurant? That's what babies do. That's what they do when they're crying out to be held or when they're crying out because they're hungry. They do it because they're signaling to you that they need something to survive. Pharaoh's daughter doesn't respond how some of us might do, hair standing up on end and going, I wish someone to shut that baby up. Let's be real, some of us react that way. She doesn't. She responds with compassion, seeing the injustice brought on the Hebrew people by her own father. And hearing his cries awakens a womanist desire in her to commit to his survival in that moment. Even though he wasn't her own people. And this concern for others who experience marginalization, class-based and race-based marginalization, that is womanism at work. And then another moment of womanism emerges, my favorite, my personal favorite. And this is when we see Moses' sister step in to work out a partnership with Pharaoh's daughter. Can we just pause for one moment? I keep saying Moses' sister, Pharaoh's daughter. Why isn't any of these amazing women named in this particular chapter? Another sermon for another day. In true womanist fashion, his daughter, his sister, you see, that's why. His sister collaborates with Pharaoh's daughter, and they work out together a plan in which Moses could be raised by his mother, but this time not in secret, but out in the open, without the threat of getting caught, and with the added bonus of her financial support. This work of collaboration, where we see two women from different cultures, from different ethnicities, from different social classes come together to work out a solution, is another example of the womanist way. And even the solution itself is womanist. You see, Pharaoh's daughter could have taken Moses back home to raise him as an Egyptian, could have fed him, clothed him in those fine threads that she has, but she recognized how important it was for Moses to be raised by his own people. She recognized that to be committed to Moses' thriving as a whole human, she couldn't separate him from his roots. Part of his flourishing as a whole person meant that he needed to be raised in his community, listening to the stories of his people, listening and hearing their language. And she knew this was essential to his entire being thriving. And honestly, this was likely why he grew up to stand up against the exploitation of his people, acting in womanist ways himself, because he was protected in his position of power. But he acted in ways that went on to liberate his entire community. So in this chapter, in this story, we see this through line of womanist actions. God manifesting, God animating through womanist actions, starting from Exodus chapter 1, the womanist actions of the midwives, and then Moses' mother and sister working out womanist solutions with Pharaoh's daughter. And what happens next? What happens after this? As a result of their commitment to work together for their collective, an entire community survives. Not one person, not one man for himself, an entire people. They go on to work out how to be a new nation. These are the ancient Hebrews that go on to form the nation of Israel. They go on to work out how to live together differently, not in individual competition with one another, but working out how to thrive as a collective. And it doesn't even stop there. God, animated in the spirit of togetherness, oriented these women to act in ways that go on to inspire a Jewish man who would inspire 12 of his friends to work together to resist another empire that was oppressing them. Together, they worked together to feed thousands, to break rules, to heal and touch people across cultural divides. Together, they inspired many others to listen to the cries of the oppressed and respond with compassion. So you see, the womanist way of walking the wilderness is God's way of moving through human history to bring about collective liberation. And because of that, we too today are called to continue this womanist commitment to one another's wholeness, not just our own. We must move away from this inclination to act in every man for himself ways. It isn't enough for one of us to be okay. It isn't even enough for one group of us to be okay, to rise up and excel above the rest. We are called to walk the womanist way, being concerned with the survival and wholeness of entire people, not just one group, not one group pitting the needs of one marginalized group against another, but instead working a solution out together. Rabbi Jesus, the Son of God, modeled this for us by calling us to be in dialogue with one another, to work out a solution for our survival as a collective and our wholeness and liberation as a collective. Caitlin Curtis, a citizen of the, I really hope I don't botch this because I practice it so many times, a citizen of the Potawatomi Nation and speaker at this year's Freedom Rising Conference. She talks about this too. She says, I learned from the Black women in my life that Black and Indigenous women must work together, must partner together, must actively join with other women of color to lead the way forward in America. That's right. Can you imagine what we could do if we worked together? If we all worked together, Black, Indigenous, Asian, Latine, white, queer, hetero, everyone in their neuro and body diversity, can you imagine what we could accomplish if we worked together to dialogue and co-conspire a way out of these oppressive systems? Can you imagine what would happen if we walked together in this wilderness journey? Imagine what we could birth on the other side of this. Can you imagine what would happen if we learned from women like the legendary Ruby Sales, Caitlin Curtis, Reverend Dr. Kelly Brown Douglas, and LaTosha Brown, who are all thinking about this womanist way of working out the survival of the collective? Can you imagine what kind of liberation work would be lifted up? What we could do? Together, when our strands become tightly bound because of concern for one another, not just ourselves, we become stronger. Being together is how we can embody a collective resistance to the forces that are trying to wipe us out. Together is how we can take risks and not be broken by our oppressors. Together, we are going to remember that our bodies are not to be exploited, that we are God's beloved. And together is how we are going to be liberated. And right now, I'll tell you real quick, if you're not sure how to do this together work, this womanist way of walking, there are 3 things you can do today. You can go to our Freedom Rising conference, sign up today, so that you can be in embodied presence with many others who are wanting to do this womanist work. You can listen to Reverend Amanda, who is doing a Lenten Bible study on Harriet Tubman, who has done this womanist way of walking through the wilderness. And you can do this online. Thirdly, you can join in this together movement, this womanist way of being, by serving here in our community, in both our outward-facing ministries and our inward-facing ones. Who's here from Butterfly Outreach Ministry? We have a few folks here. Butterfly Outreach has recently partnered with Judson Memorial to serve on Mondays, to serve at their day respite site for asylees. And you can be a part of that. And if going out there in the world is hard and you want to try one thing, try one small step, come and be involved in making this happen each Sunday by being an usher. And now's a good time to start because they have their training next Sunday. And I'm sure there are many, many, many more ways to take part in this. My hope is that, like the ancient Hebrews, together, we too can become brave. We can usher in a new kingdom, a new sense of kinship with one another in the womanist way. Are you with me? Yes. Amen? Yes. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Mira. I'm Christopher Polovic-Waggy. Pronouns are he, him.
And I'm Anna Polovic-Waggy. My pronouns are she, her. And we've been coming to Middle for about 4 years now. So when I was in college, I was told that if I wanted to be a Bible study leader, that I should pray about and rethink my support of LGBT people. You know, at the time, they didn't even know that I am bisexual, and I think, I didn't even realize how much things like that had deeply hurt me. I think I kind of brushed them off until I came to Middle. And like week after week, I found myself so overwhelmed with emotion. And I think it's because it was healing, it was healing to be here. And, there's just this sense of relief in not having to justify all the time, because here it's not, it's not just acceptance, it's truth that queerness is holy, that women and non-binary people belong in leadership in the pulpit, that, speaking out against white supremacy, xenophobia, mass incarceration, that's our calling. And at Middle, we know that. Sorry, I get a little nervous, but before Middle, I just didn't think a place like this existed, and it's been so important to me. And we don't just say those things. I think Reverend Mira, clearly showed you at the end there. We take action, and that's what's really important, is the follow through. So personally, I'm part of the Reparations Task Force at Middle, which is a group I love and hold dearly. I've learned so much being a part of that, and I think in a time when we're dealing with so much legislation that kind of says we're not going to tell the truth and we're not going to talk about history, at Middle, we're taking very seriously that, Middle Collegiate Church has roots in history in the Dutch Reformed Church. And we're awful, we're horrible, and and like it's deeply entrenched. I mean, doing some of this research with this group has been so enlightening. It's changed the way I see the whole city. I mean, there's these people who, were Middle members, who were enslavers, and whose work still sits in the Met Museum. Like the intergenerational wealth and white supremacy is so deeply entrenched. And we're ready at Middle to take responsibility and do the work and not shy away from it, but say that we're gonna make things better.
So Middle, as you can tell, is a great community. It's a movement. And so if you're ready to, put aside every man for himself and actually, join the movement, you can go to middlechurch.org/join. You can join the movement, get plugged in. There's, like Reverend Mira said, there's butterfly meal programs, there's the Lenten Bible study, ukulele acts, creative writing. There's so many things that you can get plugged in here. So definitely check those out. So again, that's middlechurch.org/join, because you don't only need to, you can bring your gifts of service, and you don't have to only donate monetarily. But if you'd like to donate monetarily, there's a QR code on the screen, there's a QR code up here, there's a QR code on the bulletin, so plenty of places to do that. You can donate via Venmo, or you can go to middlechurch.org/donate. You can do a recurring donation, which is what we do. And there's the 3-year pledge. It's not too late to do that. We did it after the deadline, but it's okay. We pledged, and so that's at middlechurch.org/rising. And that really helps Middle to know, what kind of monetary donations will be coming in the next 3 years, so that we can move forward with rebuilding and programming and everything great that we do. So thank you guys. You're all welcome here, and join the movement.
freedom, playing the God in me, representing their glory. Oh, God's proud of me. I do hope it, I do pray. I'm living my life. Live your life like it's golden.
Dear God, please accept these gifts as a token of our gratitude and thank you for all you do and continue to do in our lives. May these gifts be used as a witness of your love. Amen.
Test. You ready, buddy? Helena's gonna lead us in the verses, so we're gonna listen and we're gonna join in the chorus.
I'm so glad somehow I've got salvation now, and it keeps the spirit moving in my soul. Every day I find it's joy and peace in mind, and it keeps the thinking
Beloveds, you know what? Go out and go singing. Amen. Go find each other and sing through this wilderness journey.
Yes.
Go and be the spirit, God's animated spirit of womanist way of being. Go be that way in this world this week. And know that you are beloved always, and nothing will ever change that. Nothing anyone says. Amen. Amen. Don't forget, congregational meetings, so please settle your behinds down.
Can I brag on Mira on the way into the meeting? Yeah, man. That was amazing sermon, right? We're going to do this meeting right now. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Anna. We're going to do this meeting right now. If you would like to come down, if you're up, come down. Come on down. If you're leaving, you're going to miss all the juicy stories they're about to tell. Thought I'd share. Come on down. Hi, if you're online. Okay. Thank you, Samantha. Thank you, singers. Thank you, Dion. Come on down, Andy. Okay. Everyone? If you can still hear me and you're leaving, hi, love. If you can still hear me and you're leaving, I'm not trying to shame you. I'm simply saying you're going to miss a juicy story. Don't feel bad. It's okay. Is that my little boy? What's up? Come here. Hi. How cool. Do you look the same on me all the time? It's so good to see you. It's good to see you. Okay, all right, honey, thank you. Guys, we're going to get started so that the people online don't hang up. Okay, we're going to start. I'm just going to kind of review our agenda. I'm going to frame this meeting just a little bit. We're going to hear from our chair, Vicki Burns, who's going to give us a better context about what's happening inside the world of building. We're going to hear an update on the facade. We're going to hear an update on a potential insurance. We're going to hear an update on potential partnerships. And we are going to hear an update on Middle Rising, our campaign. And we are going to then have some time for Q&A. All right? Does that sound good? Okay. So let me just say, and somewhere in the mirror, I'm going to talk about Middle Rising, the Freedom Rising Middle Project. So let me briefly say these words and then have Vicki come. I don't think any of us can imagine fully how much the world all had COVID. Right? We all had COVID. Whether we got it or not, we had isolation. We had worry. We got sick. We got well. We lost people in these 3 years that we love so much, including Sandy and Achebe and Lawrence, our dear Lawrence. We lost a sense of trust in our environment. We lost a sense of what does church look like? And I say that to say that even in the context of a 3-year now endemic, and in the context of a fire, Middle Church has managed to stay a community, and that is about you. That's about you. So I just want to clap for you. That's about you. I want to clap for my staff, and I want to for my staff. staff, for clap for our adjunct staff, which is our AV team that makes worship happen. Our music team, I'm just clapping for that. I'm clapping for every volunteer that makes justice happen, every volunteer that makes justice happen. And I'm especially clapping for my board. And I'm just going to ask them to stand and face the camera because people don't always get to see you. So if you're on the board, just stand and give the camera a hello. Okay. And with that, I'm asking our amazing chair, Vicki Burns, to come.
Hi, everybody. I don't know about you, but I am still vibrating with the amazing sermon from Reverend Mira, right? And here was my takeaway, because I like to have takeaway when I read things and hear things that move me. Let us co-conspire in womanist ways to free each other from all forms of oppression, right? Yes. So we're here to talk today about the future, right? Just to recap, it will be 3 years in December since that fateful fire on 2nd Avenue. But as Jackie said, while we lost our precious and beloved and historic sanctuary, our community lives on. However, we do believe that with our mission and our movement, the physical space is still necessary to be all that we can be, that New York and the nation and the world needs from us. And so there are two paths in this rebuild mission. One is to do it ourselves, right? To take our insurance funds and raise funds and grants and from a variety of different sources and rebuild on 2nd Avenue. And the second path, which was recommended by our collegiate colleagues and which we embrace, is to build with a partner in a joint venture. And that has been kind of a guiding light for us, and we have been working with quite intensely since January with a potential joint venture partner who is mission aligned. And this is a kind of a complex situation. I'm learning so much about New York real estate and law and all this stuff, but those are the two paths before us. But both of them get to the same place, which is a physical home for the ministry and the mission of Middle Collegiate Church in the Lower East Side, because that was important to our congregation and to our community, that this place that has been on the Lower East Side since the 1600s should stay there, because that's where we're needed, and it's in our DNA. And so you're going to hear a lot of details about all of this today. I'm going to hand it off to the next thing on our agenda, which is facade. Is that me with Tim? I don't think Tim's here. Okay. So just to remind everybody about the journey. So the church basically burned down, but not all of it came down. The facade was still standing. We went through many, many months of conversation with Landmarks Preservation, and in January, they gave us permission to take down the damaged facade. And that frees us to start the rebuild process. But taking down the facade is complicated for a variety of reasons, for safety, which is what we argued before the Landmarks Preservation Commission, but also because they made us promise something that we had already promised ourselves, which was if it was possible to retain parts of the past, to be incorporated into a new building, we would do so. So in terms of how that process is going, the engineering team has to create a plan for it and drawings for it literally bit by bit by bit. How does it come down safely? How might we retain things of value? And can we do it quickly? So we're working with the team who has been working with us for many, many months, called Ancora. The drawings are almost ready. Those will be submitted to the Department of Building and to Landmarks Preservation. And then the next step is to have a construction manager. And we're going to go with the team that really has been since the week after the fire, a company called Triton. They're very, very experienced, and they know us and they know our site. They will then take bids for a subcontractor to do the actual demolition. So those are the 3 steps. All of that is underway, and we hope to get that started now that spring has sprung fairly soon. Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you. Vicki is a hands-on, amazing gift to that team. So we're grateful, Vicki. So grateful. We're going to next hear from Stan, who is here on Zoom. Stan Sloan, the Reverend Stan Sloan, is the managing director of the Collegiate Church, helping every single congregation, our 4 congregations, and also the central office, to move through this time of foment and transition and change with grace and wisdom. Stan is going to talk to us about insurance and say some about our potential partnership. Stan, welcome. Whoop.
Thanks, Jackie. It's good to be here with everybody. So I'm just over 2 years in my role. My first day of working in this role was meeting Jackie on December 7th, as the church was still smoldering. And at that meeting, we had our first meeting about insurance and learned that we had a $21 million policy. Our friends Mitch Gerber and Patty Lombardo have been looking out for us all the way through, and we got that $21 million. But even beyond that, our insurance carrier had made a mistake in the policy, and the policy said that in addition to that $21 million, there was the potential for us to do code upgrades as we rebuild, and that would either be $1 million or however much the full changes cost, whichever one is greater. Now, they don't write insurance policies like that. The insurance policy should have said $1 million or the full cost of the upgrades, whichever is less. But it said whichever is greater. So last week, we met with our insurance carrier, and they gave us a very generous offer to buy us out, and they gave us an offer for $2.75 million. And that check is on the way to us as a bonus that we really weren't expecting. So that's huge good news. So that's insurance, and we're finally all done with insurance. We don't have to worry with it anymore, and we get to really focus on our rebuild. Regarding the rebuild, I'm going to talk about our partner. So Vicki, who is amazing, talked some about the fact that we had a panel of experts, outside people from Collegiate, evaluate kind of where each of our churches were. And they said, in the ideal world, Middle Church will find a mission-aligned partner to help us rebuild. Now, there's 3 things about this that I really want to focus in on. The first is that this removes risk from us. Anytime you go into the ground, which is what it's called when you do construction from the ground up, anytime you go into the ground, there are huge variables that can happen that could turn a $1 million part of the whole project into $5 million. If we find a partner and they take on the building out of the campus for us, a partner developer, then we remove all of that risk from us, and our costs will be our costs without the risks that they could escalate due to unforeseen things in construction. So that was a huge reason for us to look for this partner. Thanks to Mark Reed and his friendships, we have found an amazing mission-aligned partner. And I would even move beyond saying mission-aligned to say mission-enhancing partner. We aren't to the place of having gotten to sign with them yet, so I'm not going to tell you the name of the organization, but it's important for you to know that they'll be developing housing up above us. They will build out our church, our sanctuary on 2nd Avenue as what they call a white box, which means then that we get to come to this white box and to decorate it and to make it our church and our home for our future. But they, again, will take on the risk and get it built. And they'll be doing low income or homeless housing up above us for people with disabilities. It could not be a better fit for us. We have a deep, rich history of social services in the area. For us to be partnering with them in this development that we'll be doing this housing is extremely exciting. And then the final good thing about this partnership is that they will be paying us rental income every year for as long as the partnership exists. So we will have an ongoing source of income for the congregation every year, somewhere in the tune of $250,000 a year, from which we can use any way that we want in our operating budget. So with that, Jackie, I'm gonna sign off, and I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Go do your Sabbath with your partner, okay? We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
I probably should be looking over here for you. Thank you, Stan. Yeah. Let me say just 2 more things about that partnership. One is that Vicki and Devin and I have been mentored by, Middle Church, therefore, is being mentored by Trinity Wall Street. And what they do is they take congregations under their wing. We are in a cohort with other congregations who are all trying to figure out how to leverage their real estate so that they can have partners that align with or enhance mission, but also that have a revenue stream. So it was Trinity who said, never sell that land, and introduced that idea into the collegiate conversation. Not our brokers who might be listening, but they didn't suggest it. Trinity did. And so we're really proud of that, because even as we did interviews across the system about building this building, we got great feedback, important feedback from many of you that said, what's going to be the economic model so that we are able to sustain our ministry for the future? So we're delighted that we're talking to this partner about a 99-year lease, not even a 40-year lease, but a 99-year lease that'll kick off money. And they're suggesting $250, and we're not sure that's enough. So we're still negotiating. And just to tell you, because I'm anticipating questions, the way this deal would go is 50 East 7th Street remains ours. 50 East 7th Street is not part of the deal. The part of the deal is we sell them our air rights, and WPA, the building south of us, needs to be a part of this deal for this deal to work. So that's the negotiating that's happening right now. Not for us, we're not buying that, but our partner would buy that and their air rights. So they would use that site and the air rights to build this apartment complex, and it would wrap on top of our sanctuary, which would be a 2-level sanctuary, hopefully without big daggone pillars in it, and with 2 balconies, and the sanctuary would be the current footprint plus the footprint of the social hall, so that we end up with a sanctuary that sits almost twice as many people as we could sit before. We go up to about 600 seats. We reorient the sanctuary so that it goes north to south as opposed to east to west. We end up with, am I saying that right? Yep, we flip it around. We end up with seats, not pews, so that we can make it small or big, that we can use it as the community center that we hope it'll be, so it's sacred for us when we need it, but the neighborhood does concerts, does meetings, etc. We're so excited. The design that we're drafting has space in the cellar for a big kitchen and big gathering space. It's going to be hot. And the partner takes all of the building risk. I want to say that again. The partner builds the building. What Middle does is we refurbish 50 East 7th Street, and it is in great shape for floor 5, 4, and 3 are in pretty good shape. It looks like we left in a hurry in a rainstorm. But the second and first and cellar are a hot mess. In this first iteration of refurbish, we'll do the top 3 floors, we'll fix the first and second floor, the cellar will stay messy, hold systems, and then we'll fix that as we do the sanctuary. Yes. Operating systems, yeah. All right. Thank you, Vicki. That's better. Okay, so what Vicki is helping me to say better is that the cellar will be the place that holds our systems. Therefore, it will be cleaned up, dried out, and it'll fit systems, but we won't design that or build it out, fit it out for our ministry until we get to the next phase of work. So what we've essentially done, family, is we've taken the 2 motions. The one said, find a partner. The other said, or stage your rebuild. And what we've done is a hybrid. So we're staging our rebuild, and if we get started on our 50 East 7th Street building like we think we will, somebody will be going to 50 East 7th Street. Who will that be? Woo! Okay, with that in mind, it's time for us to hear about Middle Rising from Devin and our amazing consultant, Andy Sears. Devin, you want to go first and introduce Andy? And hi.
I sure do. Hi, everyone. So what I want to do is kind of do a little history level setting with us to remind us where we kicked off this campaign, Middle Rising, the campaign to rebuild, reclaim, and repair. And so as you all know, in July of this year, you started hearing from us, meeting with us, and then in earnest in October, we did our congregational meetings with you all on what this campaign looks like for these next 3 years to raise the $15 million. How we got to the $15 million was Andy and his team joined us from Contour Strategies to do what they call a feasibility study that interviewed a group of stakeholders in our middle community, as well as took our giving data over the last 5 years to see how the congregation contributes, to help us project what folks said they would do and what our numbers kind of show we do. And so using our annual budget of roughly $2 million, as we all know, we also need to fund that every year as well. In July, we run a fiscal year of July through June every year. In July, we moved into what is called a one fund strategy. So all revenue contributions that come into Middle, whether it's pledges to the campaign, specific grant to programming work, or contributions from the congregation, go to one fund, and then it's our work to use that as necessary to pay our operating funds, our programming costs, and then the money that goes toward the rebuilding campaign outside of what the insurance money is going to cost or gives us. So we have a graph to show you that kind of helps explain where we went, where we started, and where we come. And I'm going to have Andy walk you all through that a bit and then talk about the next part. But some basic news and some fun updates. In this programming year, since we've kicked off the campaign, we have had $3.25 million pledged to the campaign thus far from this community. You can clap. You can clap. You should clap. Of that, we've already received, between our recurring donors and those pledged dollars this year, we've received 1.1 million in revenue for our operating budget of 2 million for this programming year. Also, another clap, everybody. That is a 45% increase over what you all gave last year at this point. And so that's a huge lift to where we need to get to each year, these next 3 years. And so part of all of this, and we'll go into this in just a second with a graph and everything. Part of this is our work looking at additional funding sources outside of just the congregation. So Jackie and the programming team and I have really dug deep this year into outreach to foundations that grant to the type of work we do. And so we've had a lot of great conversations thus far since we kicked off the campaign, and leading into multi-year conversations with folks about granting us for our programming work. And then, like Jackie was talking about, the opportunity to be in a cohort and kind of a learning moment with folks like Trinity that would help us raise money toward our rebuilding costs. So to name a few names, we've submitted a grant this year to the Lilly Endowment for a Christian parenting initiative. We've been in conversation with the Fetzer Institute through our connections here for programming work. Focus for Health is an organization that we've met with and are very excited about our work and have given a grant this year. And then we're also in conversation with an organization called the Wellspring Philanthropic Fund, who is very excited about the work that Freedom Rising is going to do these next few years. So I'm going to put up a graph for you all to see, to understand these numbers a little bit better, and then I'm going to welcome Andy up to start walking us through this and talk to us more about where we go from here and how we keep the momentum flowing.
Thank you, Devin. Let me talk through the graph. I'm going to start on the left. And so when we originally did our assessment, you'll see there that we broke it into these categories of individual, foundation, and potential city funding, and then the amounts that we attributed to each of those potential buckets. And that was close to $15 million that we assessed that we could potentially raise during this campaign. If we update kind of where we are, because things evolve, it's not a static thing. As new gifts come in and new opportunities come our way, we continue to update kind of our status of what we think is potential for us. One of the things that you'll notice there is on the foundation piece, that number has gone up a little bit. And I really feel like we're ahead of the curve on foundations. It's been a ton of fun where we came up with a list of potential funders through foundations, and the key to kind of really making traction there is who do you know? Who are the connections that we have within those foundations that could help kind of guide us through the process? And as we're going down the list, we're like talking within our team, Jackie and others, okay, what about this one? Anyone know anybody here? Yes, we do. Or yes, we know somebody who knows somebody. And we just kind of went down the list and traction just started to kind of take off. And we followed those leads, and that's kind of what Devin was talking about. There's about 4 or 5 real significant potential requests that we're pursuing in those foundation leads. So that number has bumped up. On the individual giving, you'll see that number has come down a little bit, but that is always a fluctuating number as gifts come in, or we're anticipating. If one donor gives a little bit more than what we had thought, then that number goes up. So that's not a concern to me. It's just kind of the normal fluctuation of what we see. But overall, we're on track just as we had hoped we would be in terms of our campaign projection. Breaking kind of those categories down in terms of where we are today. So under individuals, the 8.8 million, we're at about 4, or what did you say, 3.2, Devin, on that number, or just about 4 million. If you add in the reoccurring giving within the church, that piece kind of bumps that number up. And we've got 4.8 left that we need to raise. And based on kind of what we were anticipating of where we would be at this point, we're right kind of where we're anticipating. And I feel like there's opportunities that we would have been pursuing right now, but because of just the traction that we got with foundations, we put more energy there, and now we're ready to jump into some of the other individual strategies that we want to pursue. On the foundation side, we've received $850,000 in commitments. 50,000 is in, and we've bumped that number up. We're pursuing at least another 1.8 million. I think if a couple of these bigger ones hit, that number could go up from there. And we're having real conversations with the city about potential funding. Even in this coming week. And so that's an ongoing conversation about the potential funding that could come from the city. Let me talk for just a minute about specifically the 4.8 million individual side. There's some cool things that are happening. We're hitting the road. We're going to be in Los Angeles, where one of our kind of friends of Middle is hosting a gathering, and people are coming together, and it's an exposure opportunity to people who don't have a lot of exposure to Middle, and so it's beginning the journey with potential people who somewhere down the line may want to give to this. And we're going to keep doing those kinds of activities. On the congregational side, we're still seeking those 3-year commitments from people, and I feel like we've got a long way to go, and we're going to keep communicating the message out for people to join us in helping us to get to that goal. And then we've got another strategy where there's people who are friends of Middle that have the ability to give significant gifts to this, and we're focusing energy and getting meetings with Jackie with those people in the next 3 to 4 months, and I really feel a high level of confidence in our ability to hit that 4.8 million kind of remaining to raise on the individual side. So the next slide, if we want to move there. Devin, anything you want to add to this one?
Nope, that's great.
Okay. And I think the bottom of this might be cut off, so we can't quite see the whole thing. Is there a way to, there we go. If we take kind of all the sources of funds that are potential, and this is just kind of a cool thing to look at, is right now where we sit in terms of commitments, the 4.8 million between foundations and individuals that have committed to the campaign, the 21 million in insurance funds, and the 1.2 million in money that was originally committed to this work before the campaign started. That puts us at a little over $26 million that is like there, either committed or in hand today. And then the additional piece, Stan mentioned the additional insurance money is in the mail, so we haven't counted that yet. So that's the 2.75 million. So we add that to the stack of potential sources of funds. We complete the campaign at 14.9 million or 15 million, close to that, plus the insurance money, plus the original money. Now we're at $38.9 million. So there we go. I think that's it.
Devin, do you want to say anything there?
I think that's great.
Okay.
I think that's great. And I think the takeaway from that is, as long as we all stay committed and we keep working to find, the additional individual givings that is projected, we'll get there.
Thank you, Devin. I agree with that 100%. And I do want to say something as we move back to Vicki again, which is to say, some of us, my board, have seen, Our owner's rep, Tim Vitrero, that's how I should say this, is loath to put numbers in the world, because if you see a number, you memorize the number, and you think that's the number, okay? So there has been what we would call a rough order of magnitude budget about what it would cost for Middle to do this all by ourselves, right? All by ourselves right now, if we had to do it. I just am kind of startled, and therefore I want to say that that rough order of magnitude budget and that number that you saw, the 38, are like almost exactly the same. So if we are successful and the partner drops out, is what I'm trying to say, and we stage our rebuild, which we're going to do, we are not in trouble. We are not devastated. It is not catastrophic. It is unbelievably miraculous that we could do it by ourselves. Unbelievably miraculous that we could do it by ourselves. We'd have to think about what kind of stained glass windows are going in there, or if they're going to be just glass, but we can do this, Middle family. And I'm so proud of that we can do this. But the smarter way, the wiser way, the sustainable way to do this is for this partnership to work out. And if this partnership doesn't work out, for us to keep talking and looking at partners. Vicki and I have met a lot of people in the city who love us and can't wait to help us think about housing. And somebody I know in the room runs charter schools. I don't want to say his initials, but somebody in the room named Dominic, runs charter schools. So there's always another partner. The Reverend Phil Tom is our consultant. Phil, raise your hand. Who has said from jump, day one, if we need to think about another source of partners, we will. So our current broker, has delivered this partner for us to consider, and if this doesn't work, we will consider how else we move forward so the partner continues to leverage our work. Does that make sense, everybody? I want to answer that question for us. And now comes me. I'm supposed to talk about Freedom Rising. So one of the things that, if you've seen our flip book, and if you haven't, friends, it's on our website, and I'm going to ask Ben's here. Ben, I'm going to ask Ben if we'll pop it in the next e-blast again, just sort of at the top, easy for you to find. That's not true. It's not relevant anymore. Right, Andy? Okay, we're changing it. Never mind, Ben. If you've seen our flip book, though, our 3-and-3 strategy, right? To build a center for spirituality, church, justice, and the arts, right? That's what we're doing. And 3 emphases are to rebuild both our physical plant, but also relationships in the city, to reframe and reclaim Christian is our deep calling. That's in our vision statement. And the third piece of that is repairing a hurting world. And you heard Reverend Mira honestly say out loud, we got stuff to do. And we are always talking about the harms we, the collegiate church, the Dutch Reformed Church in America, did to the Lenape people here and also to Africans who were enslaved. So we're not messing around with repair. And in that reparations place, we're saying we want to keep doing our spiritual work, but we're also looking for secular partners who can help leverage that work. And in that way, we thought the Middle Project could be a robust partner, but we also knew that Middle Project wasn't as clear a call about what that is. So we have changed that name, Middle Project did, officially to Freedom Rising. They voted officially this week to change that name to Freedom Rising, which is inspired by the whole Freedom Summer that we all know about, where the voting rights and voting registrations was happening in the South, where pop-up freedom schools happened in the South to train people how to take those tests, where intergenerational learning happened, where young people integrated lunch counters, where young college students integrated busing. I mean, we are there. That's our jam. And just to say, Middle Project just voted to change their name and elected 6 new directors who are, to say a theological word, bad asses in many sectors. We have someone who works with gun rights. We have someone who's an artist. We have someone who works with social justice with a legal hat on. And we just elected to the board Dominic Lee, who's in the room. Yay! Yeah. He's very shy, but we're going to we will put in the world our new board of directors for Freedom Rising, and that step just allows us now to do some robust planning, some thinking of what part of the program sits in that side of the house and what part of the program sits in the Middle Church side of the house, and I can't thank Phil Tom enough for helping us move that forward. So thank you, Phil. Thank you for that. Okay, Vicki, we talked about 50 East 7th Street. Do you want to say more about that?
If there are questions, I can have more details.
Come to the mic.
So it's a big step to say, we're not waiting, right? We got Landmark's permission to take down the facade. We are in a massive fundraising campaign, but we don't want to wait, right? We can do all of this at the same time, talk and chew gum. So 50 East 7th Street, holy hours, structurally sound. The worst damage from the fire was in the cellar, and then the first and second floor, where the social hall was, and then that sort of catwalk, and then there were offices for Jackie and middle staff. So those 2 floors are not real good. So here's what we're going to do. we're going to wall that off and then rehabilitate everything else, right? We'll come to it later in phase 2 when we are ready to break ground on the new sanctuary. Jackie said the 5th, the 4th, and the 3rd floor, you know, those big open rooms on the 3rd floor, and the 5th floor is where a lot of new members used to get our orientation. It's like dusty. And so there was, the team went in, I think 2 weeks ago, just to make sure that we have preserved everything that we needed to from those spaces, and then to tag things that it didn't make sense to keep. For example, there is smoke damage and all kinds of things from the fire, even though it didn't burn up. And so a lot of furniture that was upholstered, you can't ever get, so we're just gonna clear it all out. So Tim Vitero, our owner's rep, is sourcing vendors for that. I cannot tell you, I was shocked by how expensive it is, but I think that will happen in the next 2 weeks, right? But here's the big challenge with that building, and it's a prelude to building the new sanctuary. And that is because of the water damage in the cellar where all of our systems, not all of it, but most of our systems, there's no electrical in that building. There's no water in that building. And so everything that we need to do to check the elevator, to check the ventilation, you need electricity. And so there are these people called expediters. I don't know what we would call them in the real world, but they help you with Con Ed. And we have gotten the information that Con Ed needs to have to understand what we are going to do. And there are 2 ways they charge you. If you're temporary, they charge you more. But if you're permanent, they charge you less because they know you're a revenue stream for decades into the future. So that is, of course, what we presented. And that process, which is very complicated, is also underway with Tim Vitero to get electrical in there. Nothing else can happen until the electricity is restored. It's not even restoration. They're literally going to pull it from 2nd Avenue back into 7th Street to have the permanent sort of place for the electrical. So that's probably more than you ever want to know about 50 East 7th Street. But I share that because you just never know. We all have different backgrounds and experiences and connections, and I'm a journalist. I believe in putting out information in the world because you never know what will come back from you. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have I told you all the story about Vicki taking our slideshow and breaking it down and putting it up around the wall so everybody knows the story to tell? Vicki can get us organized. I want to invite Danita Branham to come now, but Danita Branham is now the chair of the whole collegiate church. Yes, she is. Come on, Danita.
Thank you, Jackie. Middle, as a representative of the collegiate churches of New York, that's Fort Washington, West End, and Marlborough Collegiate Churches, we are so excited to know that Middle is on the move, really, again. We are grateful to know that Middle can now begin their plans to renovate 50 East 7th Street. What this does is it gives Middle the opportunity to get back to giving services to our community. Middle can now plan to reinstate services such as available meeting space for mental health and addiction services. I don't know if you remember, or if you don't, you should know, that Middle used to serve AA and Al-Anon 7 days a week. There were meetings in the day and in the evenings. Middle can now also plan on having space to reinstall production line Butterfly. I don't know if you remember, but you should know, Middle used to prepare 180 bags every Sunday during the good weather. Middle can now look forward to reinvigorating things such as the pantry services, I don't know if you remember, we used to serve the neighborhood that would put in orders for boxed food and vegetables and fruits and canned foods. With this space being renovated, we can now get back to doing that again. And also, Middle can really be more flexible in planning and scheduling meetings for all of our small groups. We won't be just confined to a certain date and a certain time. Also, we can restore watching together and online worship services. You know, I mean, this has gotten small for us. And so even if we're still here or somewhere else, we'll also be able to have people come to 50 East 7th Street and watch. And lastly, we'll have workspaces for the staff where they can be in connection again with each other and with you and strengthen our relationship to each other. Middle is ready to walk out of the wilderness. Let's get going. Thank you.
Thank you, Danita. That was so beautiful. Friends, Hadaria Morgan was the chair of the Collegiate Church, and Danita is now the chair of the Collegiate Church. Claudia Slasik is one of the co-chairs of our big finance committee, where Collegiate kind of put financial planning, investment and endowment, and operations together in one big committee. Pam Edgar is the chair of the HR committee. Raise your hand, Pam. Edna Benitez is the chair of the outreach committee, making sure we do justice. Ivan Anderson just stepped out, but he's the co-chair of the audit committee. We are leading at the Collegiate Church in ways that Tom Smucker or Danita and I could not have imagined us leading when we were little hippies when I first came here. And we were. We're happy to still be hippies, but we're hippies plus, right? Hippies plus. So let me say a couple of bridging things, and then I really want to make sure we have time for your questions. One thing I want to make sure that I underscore is that the Collegiate Church wasn't fully clear that we should rebuild our church. Our fire happened at the time of another collegiate catastrophe, which was a financial one. And you who read the papers knew that there was a nomad deal and it didn't go well and it tanked our endowment. Where we used to say words like, we have a $350 million endowment. Oh my God, a $350 million endowment. Literally now sits at about 70 million. I'm saying that to you because you're stakeholders, because you're a part of this community and you get to know that. You also should know that the Collegiate Church, the women that have been leading the Collegiate Church in these last years, took it upon themselves to say we are not any longer going to live like we got all the money in the world, because we don't. And we're going to cap our draw on the endowment at the appropriate level, which is 5%. And P.S., by the way, Middle Church ourselves has budgeted over the years sometimes a draw from our individual endowment, which is bigger than it was, but I think we've taken it once. But we would never draw down more than 5% because that's just not appropriate, okay? So the Collegiate Church is at a 5% draw on 70 million. If you do the math on that, that's like $3.5 million for the whole system for Middle, Marble, West End, Fort Washington, and central office. That budget used to be about $21 million for all of us. And I'm telling you, it's 3.5. That gets a good wow from you, right? What I'm saying to you, my loves, is we are still a church because of your generosity. Like, I just can't tell you. Right? The Collegiate Church, when I came on team, used to give us a grant of about $850,000 for our $900,000 budget. Do you want me to say that one more time for you? $850,000 $100,000 for middle's $900,000 budget. As we did our rebuild in the 8-year ago time, we all promised that we'd get to 50% of our budget by 2020. Middle hit that mark in 2019. You did half of our operating budget in 2019. And then we had the fire. But did you hear Devin talk about how much money you've raised? And you are how we can do ministry. Like literally, I write a check from Middle so ADP pays our staff. So you pay our staff, right? You pay the electric. You do that. You make it happen. When I say the electric, I mean the rent that we pay to be in the spaces we are, right? This is you, my loves. So even though we've got insurance money coming, and even though we've got foundations coming, and even though we're flirting with the city, we have a meeting tomorrow, Monday, with the borough president, changed his schedule so he can meet with me and Andy. Okay. Even though in the olden days when I was a Christian growing up, the church paid the bills. And we have to be big people who pay the bills. That's the ongoing new reality, is if you want it, my loves, we're gonna have to fund it. Collegiate is never gonna jump back in like it was before, paying that kind of hefty budget. They'll take care of our buildings, they're doing that. They'll do that. They totally supported us by having us keep all of our insurance money, and we did. We will, we have. They will continue to do some central functions, like our insurance gets paid by Collegiate, right? Our ADP gets paid by Collegiate. Those kinds of support, lawyer support gets paid by Collegiate. But we're on our own in a way that most churches are on their own. So we don't feel bad about that, just that's the new reality of where we are. So when we ask you to make a donation, this is the call to action part, y'all. When we ask you to make a donation, we're saying, do you want Butterfly back? Do you want the choir to sing? Do you want John Del Cueto to conduct the choir? Do you want Dion to play the piano, right? Do you want Mira to preach that sermon? Do you want Natalie to preach that sermon and run the worship and do the online community? Do you want Ben to do Pray to Rise and make sure that a conference happens? Like, do you want the team? Do you want Elise to help us with programming and to get us in the Pride Parade? This is what you pay for. You don't pay my salary yet, although this year you had to make a contribution, but mostly Collegiate pays for me and you pay for the staff, for the team, for the things. Does that make sense to you? So what we're gonna keep doing is being transparent with you, because that's how you raise stakeholders, right? When we get the new thing happening, we will make a new flip book, and if you don't read it, then you won't know. But we're gonna keep showing you budgets, and we're gonna keep showing you where we're at in this 5-year campaign, a 3-year campaign, because you are our people. This is your church, this is your team. These are your decisions that you're making with us. Our polity is not congregational. Do you know what I mean by that? Like in some churches, the church decides all the things. Your polity is called Presbyterian polity, which means you elect Vicky and Deb and Edna and Natalie, right? And you elect Pam and you elect them and they make decisions for you, okay? Thelma, our youngest constituency member ever, okay? So that's how it goes. My call to you is to please stay informed. My call to you is please talk to us. You're traumatized, we're not in connection like we used to be, but we need to hear from you. Jackie, that didn't make sense. Ben, can I ask you a question? Natalie, can we have a coffee? Like, talk to us so we can serve you as best we can. And don't imagine that we don't need you. Make the sandwich, sing the song, say the thing, write the thing, share the thing, make a donation. Your gifts make it all happen. That's my call to action. How does that feel? Yeah, okay, I love you very much. We're gonna do Q&A now. There's people who are gonna have questions online. Ben's gonna tell us. We've got mics here, so if you have a question, let's have you ask it. And Vicki, I'm just gonna ask you to come sit up here in case you need to pop up and answer a question. Yeah, she's fine, yeah, okay. Anybody ready? Look, okay, got a question? Okay, we have a question from Dominic. We have a question from Thelma, and then we have a question from Dom.
Oh yeah, just really quickly. It's not necessarily a question, but just to make sure that there's clarity in something that was said, because there probably was, but I remember the first time I heard it, I was a little confused at our meetings. But WPA, which is the Women's Prison Association, so they're selling their building. We're not just co-opting their building. It wouldn't be necessarily co-opting, but they're selling their building, and then we are thinking of buying it. But it's not a situation in which it's like running and because they're doing good work there and yada yada. So
Okay.
that was all.
No, thank you, Thelma. Let me clarify your clarification.
Yeah, please
okay?
do.
Yep.
Please do.
Yep. I think Thelma's justice heart. Like, we're not trying to push anybody or merger acquisitions or we're not doing that. That's not who we are. But the Women's Prison Association is trying to unload their real estate. They've done a great job at that location. They'd like to unload that real estate so that they can go do some other things and with the cash. And we, Middle Collegiate, wouldn't be buying it. Who would be buying it is our partner. We are not going to be in that kind of business. We're so glad to have you, selling you our air rights and renting space to them kind of business. Phil, do you want to say anything more about that? Is that right? Okay, is that good? Thelma, is that good? Okay, thanks, hon. Thank you so much. Who else? Dom. Yeah. Dom, use the mic, hon, because people can't hear you online.
People online. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. So first, thank you guys for actually taking and developing a partnership, because that's something I personally was pushing on, which is do not just build a church. It does not sustain itself. So thank you so much for actually doing that.
Thank you.
The second thing is, with that partnership, something that is near dear to my heart, I'm pretty sure near dear to us as a congregation, is ensuring that that partner hires MWBE contractors.
Absolutely.
And just not the subcontractors.
Right.
Like, put it in a contract and make ourselves accountable.
Yes.
The general contractor has to be an MWBE. If that partner pushbacks against that, you just look at them and say, you are not the partner for us, because it is possible.
Yeah.
There are firms out there that are ran by women and people of color that can do that. So I have to stress that, hold ourselves accountable, and at least have a threshold of 60% of the subcontractors have to be MWBE, because it's one thing to build housing for us, but then don't let us participate in the wealth that comes from the housing that was built. Minority women business enterprise. Thank you. So please, let's make sure that that's in the contract so we don't walk away from it. And then two, I love that we're going to get money from the land, which is great, but also can we think about how to program our space to make money, such as a wedding venue. Having a recent wedding and seeing how expensive New York is, we can undercut the market and have a very, affordable place for people to do weddings. So also think about how we can utilize that space to also revenue stream would be great. But those are those two things.
Thank you so much, John. I want to say that your interview, with Andy, and our conversation with Trinity were instrumental in us opening our minds to, our broker never said that, ever said that. And so we're so delighted about that. We are insisting on Black women, minority-owned businesses doing the work, both that piece and our piece as well. The 50 East 7th Street building, in all transparency, is likely going to get refurbished by our consulting architect, because they've already been in there and they are doing subcontractors, but we're going out for an open bid on the rest of the project. So just really appreciate that, Dom. And one more thing that, we will not have enough money being thrown off by their rent. So what you'll see in the new spaces, friends, is a little bit of space for staff who have laptops and a lot of space for WeWork. You'll see likely concerts happening in that venue. You'll see weddings happening in the venue. We have to keep leveraging that space for our budget, because $250 or $350 isn't going to cut it. Thank you, Dom. Appreciate you so much, Dominic. Natalie, okay. Michael and then Natalie. Okay, thanks.
Hi. Thanks for all the information. It's great. I just wanted to clarify. So the projected magnitude budget that you said, around $38 million approximately, with or without the partnership, that remains the same?
I think I want to say that a little differently, Michael. Our raise, our campaign is for $15 million no matter what. Our insurance came in at 21 and then, 2.5 more, right? So the no matter what part, I think, is the revenue that we're expecting, and how we spend it will be about whether this partner happens, or exactly how much revenue is thrown off, or exactly how much the white box costs, or exactly how much we spend on the pews. So that's a consistent revenue, we think, best guess, and we don't have a firm budget yet on expenses. Is that
Yes.
how you would answer that?
Building it solo without a joint venture partner is very expensive, and it would probably take every penny we raise. Building it with a partner means that our cash investment up front to get our sanctuary, because we've donated the air rights and we are going to have a land lease, the cash up front is less, which puts us in a stronger position in terms of risk mitigation, but also in terms of the money that we're raising can go further in different ways.
Thank you so much, Vicki, for that, including endowing our future, right? And creating an endowment for ourselves. Thank you, Vicki.
I just wanted to ask Jackie if you could connect the dots with what was shared in the Join the Movement about reparations, and because Middle has led that conversation in collegiate. And I think it ties back to our raising leaders, right?
Yeah.
Which we've seen Middle do within collegiate. And I'm just wondering if you could, connect those dots and then also kind of widen the lens out and how the programming helps, going forward with Freedom
Rising, yeah. Thank you, Nellie. That's a great question to be able to kick around. I'm going to do it two ways. One is, at least I know that I do, and I think many of our board members do, consider that we get to rebuild as reparations. Which is to say, if we weren't going to get to rebuild in our neighborhood, y'all, if we weren't going to get to stay on the land, that we, and kind of make amends for harm done by distributing services and programming from that space to the Lower East Side, that wouldn't be reparational. It is reparations for us to rebuild, I think, is one piece of it. I think the other piece, Natalie, I would say is the Center for Racial Healing and Reparations that we see in our plan, which is both about Indigenous repair and also African American repair, is really part of our programming. Our anti-racism trainings is part of that. Raising the Freedom School this summer and ongoing. The after-school program we're putting back in place so that we take care of and train up our neighborhood's kids, which are mostly Black and brown. Our conference, our annual Justice Conference, where we're pulling people together to learn these tactics and strategies. All of that is about programming. And you funding at Middle is making repair. You funding our programming makes repair. It makes repair in Black community, Asian community, Latinx, Indigenous community, makes repair in queer community, trans community. So this is, to me, the way we're doing good stewardship of the resources we have, is spending them on behalf of God's vision for a healed world.
And one other thing that I just wanted to add, going back to Dominique, what your question was, is we're committed as a board and as representatives of Middle Church to always be looking at suppliers, including who manages our money.
Right.
Right? And making sure that we are extending our influence around racial justice and all the ways that we, partner with other businesses and enterprises. So that is a core mission, and we're always in conversation around that.
Thank you for saying that, Natalie. Natalie Renee?
I have a couple questions from online.
Thank you, honey.
One, could you clarify the vision for Freedom Rising services? Does that include Project Butterfly and other direct social services to individuals? Is it health and wellness, or is health and wellness a part of that vision? And the second is, are there plans around a Lenape space in the building?
Thank you. Thank you for that question, friend. I want to be honest to say that we are teasing out still what sits in Freedom Rising and what sits in Middle Church. But a kind of line we're trying to draw is it spirituality, like the development of spirit, right? We have spirituality, justice, and the arts. If it's church, it's middle church. If it's choir, it's middle church, right? If it's Bible study, it's middle church. If it's health and wellness, it might be middle church. But if it's making a more just society, that's what the Middle Project Now Freedom Rising mission is. That is about training. It's the charter of Freedom Rising is training leaders, training ethical leaders to make a more just society. So the conference, the Freedom School, the anti-racist trainings, if we were going to do a really how to be welcoming to people who are disabled kind of a project, if we were going to do really more robust training around trans language, that education and justice piece is there. And in the Venn diagram overlap would be protests, would be worship that's centered around something programmatic, would be an art exhibit that might both sit in both houses. That's the way we're thinking about that right now, y'all. I'm sorry, thank you, Nellie. That's how we're thinking about that right now. And yes, this whole idea of indigenous repair is really important to us. Our reparations task force has been listening, studying, making some recommendations, and it is specific about Lenape, but it's also specific about a nation that has erased indigenous folks. So we want to make sure that we are as broadly attuned to that issue as we are attuned to AAPI, violence against those communities, or as we are attuned to the way anti-Black racism shows up, like both particular Lenape, but also in every way that this nation and our church has harmed and erased indigenous folks. We're working on that. Now, did I get that? Okay.
Is Freedom Rising its own 501c3 organization, or is it an arm of Middle? Is it in our budget?
Freedom Rising is its own 501c3. The etymology of that is Gordon Drott starting a small foundation called New York City Arts, Inc. that received donations for the after-school program from wealthy Dutch people. That was its own repair. I thought that was good. So the kind of culture, the trajectory of that is it goes from New York City Arts, Inc. to Middle Project, where it received some funds for us, but now it becomes Freedom Rising, where it actually holds some programs and makes its own programs with its own beautiful, powerful board. Like, it might not just do what we think it should do, who knows what it'll do, but it has that freedom to do that in a robust way, as opposed to kind of wink, wink, Middle Project is doing the conference with us, which is what it's been in the past. It has its own budget, it has its own board. Anna, and then back here.
Just thinking about gentrification, especially in the East Village. And we serve an incredible array of people. Is there a way that statistically we can show the public that, yes, we are in the East Village, we're in a gentrified community, but all around us we serve the African Americans, the indigenous, the Latina, all these people that are disenfranchised that need our help. I don't see statistics as many other places do, so is there a way that we can capture that?
An excellent question. And someone in a meeting about fundraising the other day asked me about, do we survey? And then my chair asked me. And there are two churchy programs who do that kind of demographic study, and we're going to hire one. So that in this moment in time, we get not only the stats, but we get a good strategic plan. We're planned through 2025, but what's our next iteration? That a plan is based on what we learn demographically. You want to say more about that, Vicki?
Just that, and I recommended it not just for middle, but for collegiate,
Right.
Because it's the 21st century.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to sustain churches.
Right.
And middle's trying to rebuild the church. We need to know who we serve. Right, in very specific ways, and not just in heart and eyes ways.
Yeah. Vicki said that we need to know who we serve if we're creating ministry for the next iteration of our purpose. Not just anecdotal, but yeah. Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks. First I want to thank the people who are working on the new development plan. You guys are doing an amazing job. I'm really impressed. And
I think it was also smart to pull in Trinity because they certainly know New York City real estate, very well. It's really almost more of a comment at this stage of the development, but I hope that as this moves forward, we're also thinking about the aesthetics of what we're doing. Yeah. We had a very beautiful, sanctuary, and which is gone, and obviously we'd never recreate something that looked like that. But when the guy from the collegiate churches talked about delivering a white box, right? I think, a church is what's going on inside it, but I think it's also a place that you want to be, and a place that that says, we're doing something valuable here, right? And that expresses the value of what we're doing by being a place that is beautiful and comfortable, and obviously beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so we may have 500 different versions of beauty, but I think with just care in the space that we're in, and also care in how the building sits in the neighborhood. So I'm one of the people who testified at Landmarks, tear down our facade. It doesn't work for us as a church. But we should recognize that, and I live in the neighborhood, we'll recognize that we have something that was beautiful perhaps is gone, and we're going to put something else up, and it shouldn't be awful, right? Yeah. It shouldn't be the cheapest. We all look around the neighborhood, we see what gets built, right? It should not be like the cheapest possible, with tan and red brick, and you know what I mean? I think we have an obligation to the neighborhood to try and have some sense of attractiveness in what we build. So again, you're not at that point at all, but I hope that as we think about all these other parts of our mission that are important, I think our physical presence is important as well.
I'm so glad you asked that, Love. Thank you so much, because I think, we are tossing around words that we say all the time, and they don't necessarily mean what they mean. So what we mean by delivering to us a white box is that they will build the outside. They will build the outside of it, and they will build it to our specs. Like, they will build it to our specifications that you will have a chance to weigh in on in congregational meetings like this. And y'all who stay, we'll get to weigh in. So there will be our aesthetic. There will be what used to be there and how we pay homage to that. There will be what Landmarks Commission expects us to do. All of that will be a conversation about how it won't be a glass box. It won't look like the Cooper Union building, right? So we will build something that's beautiful, that we're proud of, and they build that part for us. And then we do inside. We do walls, structures, all that kind of jazz, okay? I hope that's helpful, but thank you so much for that question.
Another question online. What are the risks in having a partner in cost to rebuild on our rights and self-determination?
One more time, honey. What are the risks?
What are the risks in having a partner in cost to determine on our rights and self-determination? Example, will they have a say in activities? Right. What happens if they want to sell the rights? That kind of stuff.
That's an excellent question. And I think, so the question, did you all hear the question is about there's a pros and cons, right? A partner who knows how to build buildings, and this partner does, has done 20 projects like this in the city since their 1974 origins, including in East Village. That gives us expertise, that gives us, it's not our risk, that's them with their construction delays, that's them with their having to make up for money, blah, 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 because of the hole they found in the ground. That's them. That's what's great about it. But maybe a con about it is, it's gonna probably take a little longer, to be honest with you, because it's not just us saying bing, bang, bong, it's us saying bing, bang, and them saying bong, right? As we sort of collaborate on how we go. It's also going to take them, they have a $50 million a year budget. Is that the number? It's in my brain. I think that's right. But also, they don't use their money to do this kind of work. They have sources of funds that they find from the city, et cetera. So they've got to get their funding straight, which is a little slower than us saying, here's our 17 million. So the risk we take is it's going to take a little longer. We've done the evaluation of it, not much longer, not so much longer that it makes us think it's a bad idea. But so we're gonna, if it works out, we're going to, also we don't get to build on top of ourselves because they're building on top of us, you see? We're selling our air rights. So there's cost associated with this decision that our leaders are thinking it's worth the cost. Wait for the mic, because. People can't hear you.
We also own the building if the lease expires.
That's exactly right.
We don't have to renew after 99
That's
years, at
correct.
least when we have a 100-unit building, if we
That's
want
right.
it, but we
Yeah.
that evil.
What Dominic said, we get a lot of power in this deal for our own selves, right, about what the future is. And they will probably ask for as much as they can get, and we'll say no, and et cetera. But we need to figure that all out. And I guess what I'm wanting to say to anybody, to the listening ones and to the ones online, is we also don't know all the answers to these questions. This is truly about also negotiating our way through this deal with wise people, including people who are not in the deal yet. The people at Trinity are offering us experts that have even more neutrality than our helpful team of people who all have a self-interest, right? The broker has an interest, the partner has an interest. So we are getting great advice so we make the best possible arrangement for you, middle family. And if all else fails, we can phase our rebuild and build by ourselves. But it is better to have a partner, and we will assume this is the right one until we know different. This feels like a really good fit. Vicki, you want to say anything there? No good? Okay, yeah. Anybody else have a question in the room or online? We really want to be able to. Phil, I'm just going to look at you and see you, because you've been in a bunch of those meetings. Is there anything you think we could share, should share that would be helpful? Come say hi, at least. You're so anonymous. Hi, Phil. It's good to see you.
I've spent 30 years working with congregations around affordable housing. Again, the advice is to congregations I've worked with, don't be the sole developer. There's too much risk involved. Not only financial, but your credibility in the neighborhood. Because if you fail, it's kind of hard to bounce back from such a financial as well as a public relations disaster. The partner we're talking to right now has 30 years of experience. I've talked to affordable housing developers across the city, and they say the one we're talking to has great credibility, has great resources, and can do the job. So again, until we work out the WPA and the negotiation with Middle, I think at least we're in a good place. But I've talked to a couple other affordable housing developers, and for worst case scenario, if they fail, they say they're willing to step in to talk to us. So this is looking good, and I'm just hoping that, again, be patient, because development effort takes a long time. Most affordable housing development take 3 to 10 years to develop. We're on a short track, maybe hopefully get this accomplished within the next 3 years. So keep your fingers crossed, keep praying, and we're moving forward. Thank you.
And the way we're mitigating our own risk is to start with 57th Street. Again, that is probably a one-year project from when we finish our plan. So we might be there next summer, but that's the way we're mitigating our own risk, is to make sure we have a place where we can do programming, where you can at least be in a room this crowded and watch worship some kind of way, maybe on television, but let's watch it together with popcorn. I don't know. Natalie has been brainstorming. Come, Natalie, you don't get to talk. Come talk to us a minute. Natalie has a brainstorm always about how we can do this worship in a small studio where we broadcast it. Say hi and talk about that.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, Dion.
Yes, briefly, I dream of down the road, so not to ensue any anxiety around this, but some satellite churches where Middle gets to exist outside of New York City, in some other cities, maybe even globally. But let's start with some associations, which I use the term associations because that's what the 1st and 2nd century used to call church. So we take it all the way back to the basics of people just getting together in their homes. So there is a member, for instance, in Seattle right now who is going to hold a gathering for Easter. And we're inviting the other 20 people who happen to be in Seattle with her to come to her house. And if it just starts even that small, can we just see if people are willing to come together, and if enough of them are wanting to build community, then do we need to, what's the next step around that, right? So I'm excited. I hope you all are excited, whichever camera you are on right now. I hope you are very excited. Please reach out to me. Let me know if you are excited about that thing and are interested in doing that sort of thing. And I will put you in contact with the people who are around you. And yeah, we'll get this party started right.
Who were you going to give the mic to? Were you raising your hand? Yeah, I'll do that, and we'll just say something about the conference. Okay. Right, now that's part of it. Thank you, Matt. Just 1 second, let Ben finish.
So we're really excited this year to have the most incredible conference we have ever planned, certainly in the years that I've been here, but also I have access to all the old conferences. And when I look at the incredible array of folk who we have speaking at this year's conference, for everybody from Eve Ensler to Latasha Brown to, I mean, just a mind-blowing group of leaders who are going to come and talk about Christian nationalism, which we think is the single organizing force for evil right now in a country. So to actually do that work deliberately and intentionally is important. And our goal, if this conference goes as well as we hope and plan for it to go, is to make this a case study for how we can take this conference into a bigger place in the future. I have some friends who run conventions for a living and have been really, really interested in making the incredible conferences that we do at Middle a much bigger thing so that people all over the country have a destination place to go to be trained for this justice work. And so we have big, big dreams for what we can do together as a community, but it starts by investing in this conference. So if you're watching online, please make a pilgrimage to New York in April. It's going to be incredible. You're going to come and experience some of the most incredible, mind-blowing leaders in the country speaking directly to you, organizing, helping you get connected to other people in this movement for justice. People who are here in New York, it's in your backyard. It's like right up on 77th Street, and it's going to be just a weekend that you will always remember, and one that will train you to do this work and connect you to people who are going to do it alongside of you in the next 5, 10, 15 years to come. And it can be the seed that grows into something even better. So we're really, really excited about it.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you. So we have one last question, and we're going to get out of here because one of our members is making an album for us and need the room to rehearse. Okay? Yeah. We love that. Yes, hi.
Yeah, my name is Charles Malloy. I'm new here. This is my second actual live service, and my heart sings. I'm old 60s hippie. They were killing my pastors and my presidents then.
Yeah.
To meet a community who's so committed to the complete outreach of spiritual content for humanity, hallelujah, amen.
Amen. Thank you,
So
Charles.
for that. And my little old 40-year experience, retired electrician, renovator in New York City, may have some value and service to be able to bring.
Excellent.
These days. So,
excellent. Could you do me a favor and write your name and number on the bulletin and give it to Vicki?
Sure.
Or she's going to put it in her phone because she's smarter than I am about that kind of technology.
Can do.
Thank
And
you.
looking forward.
Thank you, Charles. We're so glad you're here. What a joy it is. Okay, friends, there's many more things we can talk about. What I'd like to do is to invite you to use Ben, Middle Info. Is that the best place? Yep. Yep, Middle Info. Say it, Ben.
Middleinfo at middlechurch.org is your one-stop shop to get any question you have answered. We promise.
And if you will write questions there, we've got questions in the chat, we've got questions from last week. We are going to create a new FAQ, and we will be back out to you with those things and a congregational meeting again in April with hopefully a more powerful, even update. Andy, anything else from you? And we're going to California next week, in 2 weeks, to build some stuff out there. We're seeing the borough president Monday, and we are just going to keep it rolling. Can we have a benediction? Put your hands up. Throw your hands up. Throw your hands up. God, we give you credit for keeping us moving through the wilderness, for dropping manna from heaven, for dropping even quail, for troubling the waters, but also giving us water to drink. Help us, God, to be faithful to your calling on our life. Bless every soul in the room. In Jesus' name and in the name of everything that is holy. Amen. Thank you all for staying. We're so grateful.
what you give focus to. That's what's ruling you. Get off of your knees, crying, help me, please. You can help yourself, no matter how helpless you felt. What I'm discovering, God has been waiting on me. We shall. Staying down and out, pull yourself up and see just how God's working. Take your eyes on me, don't worry what I'm doing. That's cause for stumbling, that can be from being free. We shall, oh, we shall. We shall. We shall.